You need to find one other person on a weird path.
Doing what I want to do versus hours where I'm doing something primarily for the money.
Do you think being financially free is the only way to live freely? Hello，大家好嘛，我係 Kristen 啊。拍片嘅呢一日有啲緊張，因為準備要去訪問兩位大神，佢哋分別就係辭咗職唔做策略顧問，轉型做自由工作者同埋出書，而家長居台灣嘅 Paul Millen，同埋辭咗職唔做醫生，轉行拍 YouTube 分享生產力同個人成長內容。舊年搬咗嚟香港嘅 Ali Abdaal，今次去到誠品香港銅鑼灣店嘅新書分享會，推出嘅就係 Paul 嘅新書嘅中譯版本《無路之路》。喺分享會嗰度，佢哋答咗好多關於工作、自我懷疑，以至到人生各種嘅話題。一陣會 share 啲精華片段俾大家，然之後就到我訪問佢哋嘅部分，聽下喺美國或者英國裸辭嘅人嘅心態。條片最後都會講少少我睇緊 Paul 本書《無路之路》嘅感想啊。兩位當初離開全職嘅原因好簡單，就係覺得職場唔適合自己，辭咗職都好多年啦。但係原來佢哋都仍然會時不時咁自我質疑，喺呢啲時候可以點樣應對呢？
You need to find one other person on a weird path, doing things similar to what you're doing. And you need to spend time with them. And so you need to find people in your life that won't laugh at what you're doing, that won't judge what you're doing, that won't compare you to others. Early on in my path, finding those people, it was so invaluable. It was those people I knew I could call when I felt self-doubt. I still feel self-doubt. I also married somebody on a very weird path as well, and we get to share that as well. But that's sort of the thing I think a lot of people overlook. You probably know some of the more like practical things you could do, but also just try not to avoid the self-doubt, right? Everyone faces that. It's normal. Like when I'm feeling insecure, I sort of just walk around and acknowledge it, like sort of talk to the emotion. It's like, okay, we're doing like a little fear and uncertainty today. All right, cool. Nice to see you again. Let's keep going.
如果為咗賺好穩定嘅人工同埋社會地位，兩位當初未必會辭職。對於佢哋嚟講，生活先至係一個人嘅重心。只不過錢仍然係保障基本生活嘅必需品。佢哋係點樣去揾錢同埋着重生活之間平衡嘅呢？
I saved up some savings that would fund me for about a year, quit my job, I buy my freedom, right? Then the real actual problem is how do you exercise your freedom? I don't want to just go sit on a beach, though I do like that a little more than most people, I think. I sort of realized, okay, I need to practice different ways of living. I realized this after my 4th month of working on my own, and many days I didn't have like paid work I even had to do. I was going to a co-working center every day. And one day I'm just like, why am I here? Like, I don't have a 5-day work week anymore. And so I had this idea. I was like, okay, I need to fire the manager in my head. I was like, fired. And I went out and just like wandered that day. And so one of the practices I do is often if I'm feeling off or stuck, I'll just wander, explore, go do random things. Maybe go for a hike or a bike ride or something like that. And at first, it's all about like making a living. My first 6 months were about making money. I was scared, and I needed to prove to myself that I could do it. After that, though, I would run calculations. I would do the math and say, okay, I earn this much. That can fund like another 6 months of living. I keep cutting my cost of living down and say, okay, given that I still have that runway, that freedom, how do I actually want to live this new way of living, right? And so I leaned into life more. I started wandering during the days. I started podcasting. I started writing. All these things had no path to any sort of like success. And my podcast, like I don't really make money doing it. I just still do it because it's fun. And yeah, it's a hard thing to balance. It's still one of the hardest things, making a living versus living. I made a bunch of money on my book. That's sort of declining now after a big boost. Most books do sort of decline slowly, some sort of plateau and keep selling. But now the question is, okay, what do I need to do now to keep buying freedom and keep extending the journey, keep the infinite game going?
If I think about hours where I'm doing what I want to do versus hours where I'm doing something primarily for the money. I don't really want to do it, but I'm doing it for the money. How do I minimize the hours where I'm only doing it for the money? And how do I maximize the hours where I'm actually doing the thing that I want to do? And this is how I personally strike the balance between making a living and living. Because obviously, like, it's really hard to get that score to 100 out of 100. Even in my case, I've got my own business, got my own team. I can broadly do what I want, but still a few hours every week, I'm doing stuff like filming a sponsored video or like doing a sales thing where I'm like, I'm kind of doing this for the money. But that's okay, because if that's like 3 hours a week, the other 97, those 3 hours then unlock the ability for the other 97 to be basically spent doing whatever I want. I could bump it up to 30 hours or 40 hours doing stuff for the money, but then it's sort of this balancing act because like chasing money is not the point. Like money is just coupons that you can cash in to buy stuff further down the line. And so if I've already got my basic needs met and like the family's taken care of and there's food on the table, why am I continuing to try and just cash in more coupons? Why not try and focus on stuff I enjoy doing? And then maybe I can make some money from some of those things, maybe it makes a little bit less money, but it's always, I find this trade-off between how much do I care about making money versus how much do I care about enjoying my life.
講到要捨棄全職，好多人都會覺得即係醫療保險啊、退休金等等呢啲冇晒公司去負責，亦都可能冇穩定嘅入息去第時買樓供樓。Paul 嘅屋企人之前都成日問佢呢啲嘢，但係佢從來都冇答案，令到同樣會俾屋企人問呢啲問題嘅我，都忍唔住喺分享會嘅尾聲表達出我嘅共鳴。
We have a lady at the front, right over here, Becky.
My name's Kristen, I'm 34 and I quit my full-time job 3 years ago. Still, yesterday I got a call from my mom. She asked, what am I doing? I tried to explain to her before, but I guess she just have no idea what I'm doing. And she asked, when will you buy a house? Are you going to buy a house? So it's so relatable to hear Paul, you say that you don't have answers for your family. And do you have answers for your family now?
No. Welcome to the club. Still get the same questions 8 years in.
Yeah, I think my mum stopped asking me if I was going to go back to medicine maybe 6 years into the thing. So for you, it's only been 3 years.
Yeah.
So I find that for Asian parents, like the six year mark.
One thing I did do is I tried to think in my parents' shoes, right? People are asking them, what are your kids up to, right? And for them, that's a really important thing. And she told me once, I just don't know what to tell anyone what you do. I like to play, like, I just like screw around, I do words on the internet, I'm having fun. I was like, Mom, I'm a business owner. Just tell them he owns his own business, right? Publishing a book helped too. He owns his own business and he's an author, right? Boomer compatible stories. You need different stories for different people, right? Just be pragmatic about this. You don't need to convert people. Give them something that's easy to describe you and help them live their lives and thrive.
Nice.
Paul, I haven't got a chance to read your book yet, but I have read some of your interviews. And Ali, I watched many of your videos. I loved most of them. I have a few questions for you. So, Paul, you live in Taiwan for quite a long time now. And Ali, you live in Hong Kong for almost 1 year. How do you think the US people and the UK people view differently on the value of work? I mean, in Hong Kong, people tend to think that having a decent job, a stable income means everything. So do you think the US or the UK view differently?
What I've found is almost everyone in every country thinks their version of the default path is special and uniquely constraining, right? People in the US, I meet people all the time, well, like people from other countries can do this. Like I tell them people in Taiwan have universal health care and they're like, oh, if I had universal health care, I would take a leap, right? Even though they have the money to cover a thing. And so married to somebody in an Asian family, I know some of the like pressures and the cultural scripts that go with that. It's very hard. It can be very challenging. But I think there's sort of been a lag of the scripts to actual reality. Our entire economy has radically transformed. The default path our parents followed, that economy no longer exists. Those jobs don't exist. There's still accountants, but it's a completely different job. The reality is always changing, whether we want it or not. And so I think the scripts and stories we attach to it just lag that, and sort of just noticing that disconnect and making sure you try and figure out what's really going on.
Yeah, I found that if I compare kind of Hong Kong to the UK, even the UK, like people are very fixated on like financial security, and security is like the key thing. And like you always get some people who are like, do weird degrees at university who want to be artsy and stuff. But you get artsy people in every kind of like even in Hong Kong, I've met a lot of people who are not on the default traditional corporate job path. So I think it seems to be a thing across the board that people are fixated on, or at least our parents' generation is fixated on helping us get to financial security. And to Paul's point, the mechanism for that used to be get a stable job, work your way up. Now it's like a lot of these jobs are getting disrupted by AI, recessions, this, that, and the other. It's like it feels to me more unstable to have a full-time job these days than being an entrepreneur. So maybe that's just my take.
I agree. But some people may say that, I have something I want to do, but I don't have enough money. I don't have a very stable financial situation. So, do you think being financially free is the only way to live freely in life?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with financially free is that means something different to every single person I've ever met. To like my wife, who quit her job with like $3,000 to her name, that was enough to take a risk and travel for a few months. For me, the number was higher, right? I've met people that are like, oh, I couldn't possibly do anything on my own until I have $5 million. Right? And the goalposts always move. I think if you fixate on the money, life appears as a money problem. But there are many things that can be solved by non-financial means, right? You can do things on the side. You can take a break. You can take a short-term sabbatical. You can ask your employer to hire you for 4 days a week, right? I mean, you've been doing it for 3 years. What was the model for you?
I don't earn much, but I think it's enough for me to have a comfortable living.
Yeah, it's definitely very personal. Financial security is often like less about the number and much more about like the feelings around money, the feelings around the number. Obviously, we're not suggesting you literally go homeless or like literally don't have enough food to eat. But usually, I speak to a lot of people who are thinking of starting their own business who say, "Oh, I don't have enough money." And if they ran the numbers, it's like, no, they actually do have enough money. They just don't have enough money in order to feel successful. Maybe they need a 6-figure salary or a 7-figure salary or whatever based on what their friends are doing. But it's often not based on survival. It's often based on status. And so money is such a tricky one because it's so easy to say, oh, I would totally do my thing if I just had the money. But almost no one who's actually done almost no one out there, like in the grand scheme of things, if you think of people who have started successful businesses or are freelancers or doing it on their own, very few of them had a lot of money to begin with. Certainly some did, but for the most part, people start out with not that much, and you can build a business with not that much. It just requires that uncomfortable thing of like, oh my god, being okay with making a little bit less money initially.
I've only made more than my previous salary 1 year out of 8 years. To many people, that would be a failure, but I feel good, right? So why is that, right? I've rewritten a lot of the stories and scripts I have about what success looks like and what that's supposed to feel like.
Paul 呢一本書《無腦之路》咧，我而家睇緊啦，暫時睇咗一半左右，已經咧係覺得好值得推介俾大家噶啦。無腦之路呢一個概念就係想講，我哋嘅人生係唔應該有一條既定嘅道路，即係覺得要去邊一個大學讀啲咩學系，畢咗業之後做啲咩工咧，唔應該有呢一種既定嘅路嘅。更加多嘅時候咧，我哋其實係行緊係一條無路之路。上面係嘅，人係要工作啦，但係工作唔代表所有嘢。佢嘅目的亦都唔係為咗要賺好多好多好多嘅錢，或者賺一啲身份地位翻嚟翻工，其實就係最基本嘅，為咗三餐溫飽，同埋可以買到時間去探索自己嘅人生。所以有啲人佢一個禮拜淨係做嘢3日。有啲人1年可能淨係工作6個月，無路之路係會令人覺得好困惑。或者係恐懼嘅。阿 Paul 喺呢本書入邊咧，就係講咗佢喺呢一段路上面嘅所有嘅心路歷程，由佢大學畢業揾工開始，去到佢真係覺得唔可以再留喺個體制入邊，佢要跳出嚟。之後嘅種種嘅所有嘅歷程咧，佢都係喺本書入邊講到咗。所以如果你係有懷疑自己可能喺呢個社會上邊做緊一個螺絲釘嘅時候，你覺得
究竟我喺度做緊啲咩呢？我唔應該喺度做緊呢樣嘢嘅喎。你想嘗試下跳出嚟，或者你其實已經好似我哋咁樣跳咗出嚟啦，但係你不禁咧係有自我懷疑。呢本書都係一本好適合去睇嘅書咯。咁我都睇緊 Paul 嗰本書嘅時候咧，就不其然都令我諗起最近咧我都係喺度睇緊嘅另外一本書喎。係啦，首先咧就係我哋嗰個 background 已經突然間轉咗啦，因為頭先其實我唔喺屋企嘅，而家翻咗屋企啦，咁就妝都落埋㗎啦，準備沖涼之前咧，但係又想快啲錄埋少少佢喎。咁嗰本書咧就係 Die with Zero，別把你的錢留到死，係Patreon 一個會員啦，好極力推薦嘅。咁我大概都係睇咗一半左右啦。點解我會話睇 Paul 嗰本書嘅時候諗起呢本書咧？因為其實佢哋雖然講嘅嘢不盡相同，但係入邊所提倡或者主張嘅生活核心咧係有啲類似嘅。大家都係覺得我哋人生嘅重點就係喺生活，喺做自己令自己享受嘅事入邊，唔應該為咗工作或者為咗賺錢而去付出自己好大部分嘅時間，甚至乎係大部分嘅健康。站在阿 Paul 嘅角度咧，佢可以咁樣做嘅方法就係離開全職嘅工作啦。而呢本 Die with Zero 咧，佢提倡嘅理念就係要死之前用晒自己嘅財產，用晒自己嘅錢。當然佢呢本書入邊有好詳細嘅步驟方法，建議我哋可以點樣真係將臨終之前花光所有積蓄呢件事咧係變得可行，可以實踐。咁呢個就再係另一個故事去講㗎啦，就唔會係今日呢條片去分享嘅。但係佢所講嘅嘢就係話，我哋人咧好習慣將工作就等同於自己價值啊嘛，將自己大部分時間咧就投放咗喺嗰度啦。咁但係其實人生好短暫，如果有想做嘅嘢咧，應該係要提早去做，而唔係留翻去退休啦。時間變得好少，或者甚至乎體力都減少嘅時候，先至去做嗰啲嘢，而係應該喺自己還有呢個精力，就用自己嘅錢妥善分配自己嘅資源咧，創造一個好豐富、好充實嘅人生。所以呢兩本書都係會令到睇嘅人啟發到佢哋對於工作本身嘅好多唔同嘅思考。咁今日條片咧嚟到呢度就差唔多啦，多謝你哋嚟睇啊！都想多謝訂咗 Patreon 嘅觀眾朋友們。如果冇咗你哋嘅支持咧，我可能好早已經係由呢一條無路之路翻去預設之路，即係翻去全職嗰條道路上面㗎啦。咁好啦，我哋下次再見啦，拜拜。